We examine the influence of faith-based judgments of CFO and CEO honesty on earnings management for a large cross-section of U.S. publicly traded firms. And after we control for financial incentives and opportunities to engage in earnings management, we find that both CFOs and CEOs that are perceived to be less honest actually engage in higher levels of earnings management, both in terms of accounting accruals as well as real forms of earnings management, such as discretionary R&D costs and operating costs. Um, we also find interestingly that the biggest effect happens when both the CEO and the CFO are perceived to be less honest. So, in other words, if both of them are perceived to be less honest, that results in the most amount of earnings management. There's effectively an interaction effect between the CEO and the CFO. So, if you go back about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, many people believed that you could just tell based on somebody's face whether they were evil or whether or not this was a person to be trusted. And due to some early research in psychology, um, that belief was found to be untrue. Now, it's important to understand that much of this early research was looking at just one aspect of the face. So, for example, the eyebrows, or perhaps looking at the person's lips. It didn't holistically consider the entire face. In the past 10 years or so, there's been a number of researchers, specifically at the University of Toronto, that have done a lot of research in the lab looking at what we call thin slicing, which is taking very short snippets, either looking at pictures or let's say 2 to 5 seconds versus a video of somebody talking, and then from there making a link between that, between perception and outcome variables. So I'll give you an example. There's a paper from about 10 years ago by Rule and Embody 2010, where they found that perceptions of power that strangers make from undergraduate yearbook photos actually predicted those individuals' success as managers years later. There's another study about 14 years ago that found that celebrities tend to be narcissistic way before they become famous. In our paper, we only get results when we actually get a number of people to rate a photo. So this is a really, really important point that some people have come back and said, well, people have lots of different opinions about a certain individual. I might say person X looks honest, and my friend might say that person looks dishonest, right? So there is a lot of variability in people's perceptions of a given person. And there's only significance in terms of findings in our paper when we take the average of those scores. So all the pictures in our study are rated about 20 times. We take an average of those scores as an estimate of a person's honesty. It's only then when we get results. So it's almost analogous, if you will, to the concept you might have heard, wisdom of the crowd. So it's actually when the whole crowd assesses, it's that average score that has meaning. Individuals vary significantly with their judgments. Another more related or more interesting study that we're looking at is looking at environmental, social, and governance. This is a huge thing right now that you see in the media around environmental concerns, social welfare, governance. And what we find there is even stronger results, namely those individuals that are perceived to be less honest, CEOs and CFOs, they actually do a lot less in terms of engaging in environmental programs and social benefits for their employees and for the public at large. So I think that's going to be a really, really interesting study. And with that study, we're also going to significantly increase our sample. With our first study, we only looked at 3 years, 2011 to 2013. With this new study, we'll be extending it from the year 2000 to the year 2020. So it'll be a very long time period. And I think we'll find some very interesting results that have happened over that 20-year cycle.